We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Last session of the day, and it will be time to wrap up this first day of CYSAT, the event dedicated to cybersecurity for the space industry. And I am glad to welcome on stage Andrew Newson, Vice President IT and Security, CIO and CISO of ICEYE.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks, Mara. Hi, well, I think these microphones were angled for somebody slightly taller, so. Okay, so just to set an expectation, I've seen some fantastic presentations and talks about securing the product, space systems, the satellites, encryption around there. This isn't that. I wanted to talk about some of the things that are often overlooked in the space industry. Security around people, security around the IT infrastructure that supports the product, and also around some of the back-end systems as well. So these are kind of my take on some of the current and emerging risks that we have. I need a thing.
The thing.
The thing.
Here's the thing.
Thank you for the thing. Thanks. Okay, so really quickly, we'll talk about the changing landscape of cybersecurity for space companies. Challenges that we face right now, emerging risks, and some key takeaways. So the space industry is rapidly transforming. Private companies are finding themselves with adversaries that are targeting them because we now give capabilities that constitute infrastructure for national defense and critical national security. So as it continues to evolve, we must adapt, we must strengthen our posture, and to defend against nation-state advanced persistent threats and organized cyber criminals, we really need to level up our game, not just at individual company level, but across the industry. So I'm kind of taking this quote from me, but it's been echoed many, many times by speakers. I think we're all thinking along the same lines. So those threat actors that we're most concerned about, first is nation-state hackers and the APTs. So these are patient, well-funded, they are aggressive, they take their time and they will find ways to infiltrate and to target both our companies, our infrastructure, and our products. Their typical characteristics are to steal, to destroy data, to deny service, and that will only be at a time that is advantageous to them. Obviously, there's also the persistent threat of the organized criminal hackers, but with a different spin. They are now being funded and paid by APTs to target private companies and individuals. Typically money-driven for profit, but they are given a task and they are paid to do it. Lastly, one of the things that we don't talk about so much are the people, the insider threat. And that is doubly important now where the changing geopolitical landscape can cause people to be leveraged, coerced, or even paid to bring malicious threats. I mean, obviously, there is still the accidental breaches from our end users, people that are compromised through no fault of their own. Okay. So I'm going to have a quick poll, if that's okay. So which type of threat actor are you most concerned about for your organization? So we will pause for a moment.
It is time to connect with ConnectsMe.
Okay. Seeing the trend, it's interesting, and it does kind of correlate with a lot of people that I've been speaking to. The nation-state hackers are terrifying as a threat. Organized criminal hackers, by nature of being associated with them, are also a great threat. But again, really quite overlooked is the insider. And so I'm glad that I'm seeing a higher skew there, and it'll be something we'll talk about in a moment. Aha. So some of the biggest challenges that we're facing right now in the space industry from a cybersecurity and people problem. So people and personnel security, they are subtly different things. One is verifying the people that we have inside our organizations. You know, how do we know that the people are the people who they say they are? You may remember in the news last year, KnowBe4, a security company, accidentally hired a threat actor from North Korea based on AI-generated interviews, and immediately, as soon as that person was onboarded, they started implementing malware and they started stealing company information. It's not an isolated thing. I think SentinelOne, another security company, went public with their data that they were getting over 1,000 applications that were identified from North Korean threat actors that were using AI-generated video in real time to pass through interviews, quickly be onboarded, and try to infiltrate the company. So this is one of the threats that we're currently facing, and the technology is good enough to fool some pretty sophisticated companies. The other challenge we have is building that culture of security. So again, particularly in my company, in ICEYE, we have a lot of people that are new to the industry, that are in their early career in development. And so building that culture is really important to bring people along on the journey so they understand that we are a defense tech company and that we are now quickly shifting towards a defense tech industry. So building that culture is a real challenge. And speaking to some colleagues and peers here, I feel that other people are experiencing this too. The last thing is the protection of our people. And again, this is often overlooked. Protecting people's actual physical well-being, their devices, because they are both data and information assets. And quite honestly, if I needed to cause damage to a space tech company, I probably wouldn't go after a satellite. I would probably go after key people because they are far easier to access. The boring one, policy, process, procedure. So it's really important to have policy, process, and procedure that map to what you actually do within your business operationally. Because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had the 3 a.m. call, alerted to an incident and need to respond quickly and make decisions quickly. And this is where policies supported by process, supported by run books that give you an instruction on what to do and how to do it are critical, because that quick response, the quick containment, and the quick recovery is what separates resilient security, cyber resilient organizations from those that suffer amazingly bad breaches. Another one would be supply chain and vendor relationship management. So I think in the previous fireside chat, there was some talk around how to secure the supply chain. And obviously with the democratization of supply chain in the space industry, the commercial off-the-shelf components that are used, how do we guarantee that those components are not tampered with, that they are not used to cause malicious harm to our satellites or to our product? And it's really key to have the right systems in place to be able to do that, to have the right agreements and the right assessments of those vendors, to be able to understand how they secure their own supply chain and business. And again, quite often, we'll see securing the strategy for open source software and infrastructure. They used to move fast. We develop products fast, and we need to have standards and capabilities that ensure that we do it in a way that is sustainable and that we can manage the security for. And my colleague Jyrki will be speaking later about IoT and some of the things that we do around there and some best practices. So please catch him. He's the guy that's going to be blocking you from cocktails. So one of the other considerations is vendor reputation management. Once you've contracted with a partner, once we've identified somebody that we want to work with, we want to source components or services or products, is how do we manage them in an ongoing way? And that's where vendor reputation management comes in. Using tools and using information to determine, have they had a breach? Have they suffered a change in their circumstances financially or in ownership? And that is really critical to being able to ensure that you manage the supply chain securely. So moving on, IAM, Identity and Access Management. This also leans a little into the people side, but having a robust strategy and way of managing access to infrastructure, systems, services is really, really, again, important, especially due to the nature of what we all do in secure environments. And overprivileged access, ubiquitous administrators it's a scaling problem with startups, because you build fast and then you have to come back and you have to resolve that later. And this is why security by design, which we've been speaking about in other sessions, is vital. It's necessary to build that discovery of identity and access, to regularly review it, to understand, does somebody have the appropriate access to do their job and nothing more? So principle of least access. One of my favorite ones, so threat intelligence, detections, response, and recovery. So this kind of encapsulates a lot of the tools that we use in security to manage our infrastructure, to manage our users, to manage our access. It's complex. There are lots of tools. They're expensive. There are also so many different propositions by partners. Do we run some in-house? Do we buy it? And again, I urge everybody here that is responsible for these tools and for gathering this intelligence and detection, don't overlook it. The ability to detect a potential breach, to contain it and eradicate it, again, it separates the companies that are cyber resilient and those that are not. And lastly, one of the major threats that I see around cryptography and post-quantum readiness. It's complicated. I cannot do the topic justice, and it has been spoken about many times. But not having a cryptography strategy is not acceptable, particularly when we're talking about providing services that are critical to national defense and national security. And it isn't just encrypting communications between satellite and ground station. It's through the whole chain, the whole data feed, from us acquiring an image in the ICEYE context, transmitting that image, delivering it to a customer, and all of the systems that passes through. So again, just going to do a quick ranking poll here. So if you could open up your Connects app, please. Which do you feel are these challenges are the biggest for your organization, from most to least? Wow. The boring one. Policy, process, and procedures. Oh, we're accelerating. Tooling. Okay. This is a race. Yeah. So again, I'd love to ask another question, but around threat intel, detections, response, and recovery. Quite often it comes down to cost and complexity of tools and prioritization for it. Now, again, this can be neglected and overlooked, and one of the problems I often see is an incident is a catalyst for investment. It's too late. Interesting around supply chain and vendor reputation management as well. I absolutely agree. Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on to kind of the biggest challenges emerging. And one of these is around AI and AI security. So firstly, from the positive side, introducing the tooling, bringing adoption into the business and getting people to actually move fast with AI tools and generative AI. One of the challenges around that is the governance and data leakage and how to prevent that and how to move fast enough for the business to use the tools effectively. But there are solutions. There are solutions for governance of AI inputs. And again, like from personal experience, the important thing is ensuring that your model is secured, that you don't have a culture of people using public models to send company information, and providing the right tools to the business to use AI. Again, part of the dangers in AI is for cyber warfare, generating malware, ransomware payloads, and also using AI to inject prompts and infiltrate the company, again, is a huge risk. And the funding and the education of threat actors around using AI tools almost always outstrips that of the business they're attacking. Interestingly, with AI security, we had a leadership strategy meeting last year where I generated the whole presentation using AI-based avatars. And somebody did ask, who are these new members of the security team? I've not met them before. So it's good enough to fool some people. Doesn't always pass the Turing test, but again, ask yourself, do you have a way to deal with deepfakes, AI-generated videos of key people in your business being used to make changes, to gather details? Because for a big sum of €50, you can get something pretty convincing that can spoof a leader in your business. The second one is really probably a current challenge that we have, but also definitely emerging. Talent acquisition and retention. So security as a whole, not just in the space industry, it's competitive. There are so many jobs open for security people, and there is a skills shortage. And equally, there is a skills shortage of experienced people with the right skills in the space industry. And as more companies start to move into the space industry, it's going to get worse. It's going to be harder to find the key talent that we need to keep the strong posture that we need to prevent APTs attacking us. And then lastly, the unprecedented level of geopolitical unrest. So I'm trying to steer away from exact things, but with the world the way it is, attackers are more numerous. They have more funding, they have targets identified, and they are patient, and they will use those methods patiently. A great example is if you recall last year in the news, there was an assassination plot foiled against the CEO of Rheinmetall, Armin Papiger. This was confirmed by a senior NATO representative that a plot had been found and that it was linked to a nation state. The key behavior there is people are identified, companies are identified as targets. And again, it's far easier to go after people or IT infrastructure or end users than it is for our assets in space. And again, I cannot overemphasize enough, the people element is often overlooked. The background screening, the security clearances that people have, the ongoing evaluation of are people having the right levels of access and roles within the company. That zero trust architecture is very, very important, particularly with the type of customers and the type of attackers that we have. Lastly, the security investment doesn't always keep pace with the rest of the business. We're building products, we're launching cool stuff into space. But then our annual budgets get reviewed, and we then ask for the things that we want to do in security. And so again, like having these things in mind and being able to coherently explain the benefits of why we need to secure our businesses, our organizations against these nation-state attackers is key. So some key takeaways, and also just firstly, something that kind of punctuates the point a little bit for us at ICEYE. So this morning, we announced that we have just inked a deal with the Polish Ministry of Defense, which is a 200 million euro contract. It's like, go ICEYE. Thank you. We're very happy. However, my security team is not, because we are now correlating a multiplier of security events that we now need to detect, that we need to review based on this announcement. The threat is real. You know, we know where a lot of the attention is coming from. So we have made plenty of these announcements recently with our partnership with other nation states and militaries. And each time it draws attention. And that for us is a warning. It's a real threat. So if that's one key takeaway, please take it. And friends are good. So partnering with national security agencies for things like background screening, for security clearances, for threat intelligence and information sharing. By partnering with security agencies that really want to help, that know that we do things that are critical to infrastructure, they will help. And I can only urge, it's too late to wait until something happens, because it takes time to build the trust and build those relationships. The wider community as well, you know, events like this, it's great to talk to peers, it's great to exchange ideas and also level up our posture together, because a stronger space industry and a more secure industry is only good for all of us. The detection and reaction, again, I mentioned it earlier, but investing appropriately for the tooling and the services from managed services security partner is key, because again, waiting for something to happen and investing afterwards is too late. People, the overlooked one. Know the people, train people, keep that culture of security ongoing. Having a robust cybersecurity program where people are engaged and they are actively, almost paranoid in a way, is a good thing. Protecting people is really important as well. You know, the example I used about the Rheinmetall CEO, protecting people and making them feel safe to work in a defense tech company is key. We can do this with physical security controls, you know, appropriate access control, CCTV, identifying our employees, securing their devices. There are many mitigations. There is no one thing that fixes it. Threat intel for reducing risk in supply chain, again, is something that I would really urge people to consider, because, for example, knowing that you have a key supplier or a key service provider and finding out after they have gone public and stated they've had a breach or they've had data leaked is not where you want to be. You want to know when it happens, and you want to be able to then take action. You also need to be able to make sure that there are provisions within contracts to be able to take action with those suppliers. Now, even as simple as having the right vendor management questions and the right contractual elements to initiate your right to audit their security. Lastly, encryption. Building an encryption strategy, not just for product or from space to ground, is vital. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be appropriate for the use case, but encryption is vital. It will slow down attackers. It will prevent lateral movement. And again, waiting for something to happen is too late. So I think we're now good for Q&A.
Thank you very much. We can applaud you.
Thank you.
You can come here and take a microphone if you want. Thank you very much, Andrew Newson. Well, one of your areas of expertise, we've got it by now, is leadership. And I particularly enjoy that you brought people at the forefront, people within the organization. It's something that is overlooked and also sometimes overlooked in sessions such as ours, not only to rely on the processes, but rather on a spirit of shared responsibility. Thank you very much for that. Also, I wanted to highlight that Connects Me is useful for questions you might have, but also you can share remarks and we will read them on stage here. I am particularly interested in the people who answered about the question regarding the biggest threats they considered something else. And there were 7% of the audience who did not choose something you've been proposing. I have a question, so related to people. Is background screening or security clearances enough to ensure we don't have bad actors inside our companies?
No, absolutely not. They are helpful, they are mitigations, they are factors that help ensure that we have the right people, but that alone is not a solve-all. There needs to be, as I mentioned earlier, a zero trust architecture where people that are in the organization that have critical access, that have the ability to do material damage to the company, have the appropriate wraparound of tools, policy, and process. So background screening and clearances are great, but trust no one.
Okay. What topics should we consider for financial security, and why would you say these are important?
So with physical security, I touched on it briefly, but again, part of it is a security culture thing. It's ensuring that people feel safe in their workplace, that there are appropriate controls around visitor management, that there are CCTV and access control policies. Also protects critical information that may be in those offices or facilities that we're trying to protect. Also around physical security, we have to look at the element of protecting people while they travel, obfuscating travel, having the ability to be able to prevent somebody finding out that somebody critical to the business is traveling somewhere specifically. So, you know, using a partner to change hotel reservations and names, that kind of thing. This is not something many private companies or startups consider. A lot of big companies, so FTSE 100s or Fortune 500s, have considerations for some of their executives. Some of them have close protection teams for their executives. But when you are a scaling startup of 10, 20 people in some cases, but you've got a really critical product, you need to think about it as well.
Yeah. So the culture of trust is also a culture of scrutiny. Thank you very much. I don't think we have questions from the stage, from the audience, not yet. And we have, well, we're finishing on time, less than 10 seconds to wrap up. So it leaves me enough time to thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here.